But we're starting with
Okay, we are live. So hello everyone on the VJUG, and also a big hello to everyone in Iceland Jug. Hello everyone in Iceland Jug.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, awesome. So this is actually going to be a quite fun little hack session, little education session. What we're going to be doing is, well, first let me introduce everyone who's on the team. I'm going to introduce, who should we introduce first? Let's introduce Heather Van Kura. Hey Heather, how you doing?
Hi Simon. Here I am. Well, I'm here in Iceland.
Have you seen much of Iceland since you got there? I think I saw you were going to be doing some trips.
Yes. So I've had a couple weeks of conferencing. Morocco, Belgium, Sweden.
Cool.
Now Iceland.
And have you seen anything awesome in Iceland? Did you see the Northern Lights or anything like that?
Oh, we are going to see the Northern Lights tonight. I'm very confident.
Fingers crossed. That sounds amazing. And who do you have?
Waterfalls today.
So we did a nice trip today.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Gumi the leader of the Iceland Jug, which was great. We've seen a lot of cool stuff, like the Gullfoss waterfall and I don't know all the names.
Gullfoss geyser and all.
The geyser, or geyser, however you want to pronounce it.
So Heather, you're the director of.
Oh, I'm the JCP.
Director of the JCP. That's pretty awesome.
I'm a leader of the JCP. Yes.
Leader of the JCP. Awesome. So it's great to have you here for this session. And who do you have with you in Iceland then, Heather?
Okay, so here with me in Iceland, we have Hendrik, who is very much a fan of Iceland. So he volunteered to come over on this trip. And we have Gumi. Say hi.
Hi.
And he can pronounce his name better than I can, but he is the leader of the JUG ICE, which is the Java user group in Iceland. And he's got with here a bunch of Java developers, which we're going to turn the camera as soon as we're done with the introduction. Or you can do it now if we want to show our crowd of developers here. So getting excited about Java.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, more coming in as we speak. All right.
Hi.
So yeah, they're ready to get re-engaged with Java and start becoming a little bit more active. So this is the perfect opportunity as we ramp up for the release of Java 9 to get the local community here in Iceland engaged and also join in with the virtual JUG community. Excited to be back.
Well, we're privileged to have you guys from Iceland online with us. And who do we have in London? Is there a Manny around?
Yes, that's me. Yes, I'm dialing in remotely. Yeah, I'm representing the LGC. I think the LGC group in the Hack the Tower is also joining us. They'll probably be already signed up on your virtual JUG interface on the web. So,
awesome. So if you guys from the LJC want to join the Hangout, feel free. Just ping me. Whoever's there, ping me sjmaple@gmail.com, and I'll throw you the link to get into the Hangout. You're welcome to join us here as well.
And then I opened it up as well to some other Java user groups. So maybe any Java user group who took the invitation and was going to collect themselves and join can join in the Hangout by pinging Simon.
Perfect. So that's everyone introduced. So what are we going to be doing here today then, Heather?
Okay, so we're doing our introduction. So we got that done, right? I'm going to do a little bit of an overview about how to participate in Java and get a little perspective from Hendrik as a JCP member. And then we're going to introduce some hands-on activities. So we're going to do a little bit of an overview of how to test your applications against the early access builds of JDK 9. And then we have a little bit of exercises to go through some of the new features coming in Java 9. We'll go over those. So Hendrik and Manny are going to guide us through the second part of that. So we'll have about an hour to do some of those exercises and then have some questions. Hopefully on the chat we'll be able to address all the questions, get some feedback, and then we'll close it out in 2 hours.
Yeah.
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll finish at beer o'clock.
Nice.
Maybe then we're gonna go see the Northern Lights. So, and then everyone else grab a beer or grab one now. That's it. Okay, that's the intro. Now we're gonna switch over to the slides. Yeah.
Okay. So everyone should be able to. Everyone on the Hangouts now and joining us on the virtual JUG should be able to see the slides.
Okay. And then you can see us still too if you're on the Hangout, right? You see our audience here. You can see us.
Yep, I can see. Let's click on that so everyone can see the audience. Hey,
Okay.
There we go.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going off the slides there on the front. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. This is a photograph courtesy of Hendrik of a beautiful waterfall here in Iceland, which we enjoyed also some waterfall viewing earlier today. I'll go ahead and, how do we advance the slides? Do you know how to advance the slide?
Yeah.
It's so funny, I can't
No,
see
just
people
scrolling.
Huh? Scrolling.
Oh, this one.
Scrolling. Okay, as Simon covered, yeah, I work in the JCP Program office. I'm also leader of the adoption program, so Adopt-a-JSR, which is what I'm going to talk about. And today we're going to focus on the Java 9 portion, so JDK 9 of what's coming. So I'll give you a little preview and then also do a little bit of practicing with some examples. And I am here from California, originally from Southern California. Been working in the Bay Area now for close to 16 years. And my job allows me to have fun and travel around and meet lots of interesting Java developers. So that's why I continue to do what I do. So Java has been around for 20 years now, and some of the talks I've been doing around the world have kind of looked back a little bit reflectively, talking about why is this? So why is it after 20 years that Java has millions of developers, running on billions of devices, and yet year over year, even last month, if you look at the TIOBE index, still the #1 choice of developers, #1 development platform. So there's lots of technological reasons for this, of course, security, scalability, and all the great features that continue to come with Java. But the reason that I believe Java continues to be the #1 choice for developers is the fact that Java is developed in a different way than most technology is developed. It isn't developed by a single vendor. It is developed collaboratively with the community. So that means all of you. And that's really what my talk is about, is how Java developers can actually get involved and participate, and you can make the platform that you work on better. So my main role really is focusing on the Java community process. And I know oftentimes people aren't really sure what the Java community process is. Familiar? That could tell me what it is? Yeah. So the JCP is the organization that oversees the development of the Java platforms and everything in the Java X namespace, actually. So all 3 of the Java platforms are developed through the JCP, through JSRs. Everyone has probably heard the term JSRs. We seem to like acronyms in the Java world. So JSR, it's a Java specification request. And the JCP, that's the main work that we do. And we do it together with users and members, expert group members, Java user groups around the world, such as the Iceland Java user group. And we do this through a series of projects, JSRs. So every technology has a JSR. And we have had close to 400 JSRs started, but there are really only about 40 active JSRs at any one point in time. So part of this talk is, we'll just show you an overview of what are some of the current ones coming and what are the ones that you can get involved in. So after we leave here today and after we finish this Hangout, you can actually go and look up some of the technologies that we're currently looking at defining in the future and see which ones you might want to continue to follow, so you can have a preview of what's coming next. Like today, we're going to do some hands-on stuff with the JSRs that fall under Java 9. So anybody can actually become a JCP member, and most Java developers are not aware of this, but you can have your company join. That is actually how the JCP started. We first opened it up to companies, but then we also opened it up for Java user groups. So we have Java user groups who are members of the JCP, open source groups like Apache and Eclipse, and then also individual Java developers. You can join the JCP and there's no fee to join. And we also have a board of directors, and just FYI, I keep this in here for this brief overview because we have our executive committee elections going on right now. So if you are already a JCP member, you can actually vote right now. You have to vote before Monday, midnight Pacific time, and that will determine who's going to be on the executive committee for this next year. So if you are a JCP member, check your email for your credentials, and please vote. We have a 25-member executive committee. And we have ratified candidates, elected candidates, and this year a new seat, associate candidates. And anybody can nominate themselves who is a full JCP member, whether it be a company, an open source group, a Java user group, or individual Java developers. Here's a picture from our last meeting. So we've got two Java user groups here. We have London Java Community and So Java in Brazil. We have Mike from Eclipse. We have a couple of individual developers like Gear and Werner, and then some companies as well. So we get together 3 times a year and talk about how we need to evolve the JCP itself. And the EC also votes on every JSR 3 times in its life cycle. So the role of the JCP Executive Committee is really to kind of act as a board of directors for the JCP itself. And I'm the program management office with my team. We help administer the JCP and work with the leaders of the JSRs. So in the middle there you have the spec lead. So that's a leader. Every JSR has a leader, and every JSR has to have members of their expert group that work together. And then we have our membership that is important role for them to play, along with the international Java developer community, is actually being a part of the work as it develops, not waiting until it's finished to actually take a look and see what's coming, but provide your use cases, provide your feedback, download and test the early access versions that are available to you, and then provide the feedback back to the spec lead so they can make a better technology that's going to be easier for you to use in the real world when it is final. So every JSR is available for you to do this. We've changed the JCP to make sure that everything is open. There's open reviews, open issue trackers, open discussion forums. So once you pick a JSR that you're interested in, go ahead and follow those discussions and check out the downloads and check out the issue tracker if you have a problem. And if you see something that's not being addressed, comment on the issue tracker. So you do need to be a member to submit and lead a JSR and be on the expert group, but to comment and follow all these discussions, you do not need to be a member. You only just need to have an interest and provide your feedback. So there's more details in the process document, and I have a link there if you want to do some bedtime reading. So every JSR also has not only a specification, but also a reference implementation. So that's what we're going to be working with today, is the reference implementation that's being developed for Java SE. So the reference implementations for the platforms and for all JSRs are developed in an open source project. So Java has 3 platforms. The SE platform is developed through Project OpenJDK, so that's an open source project that we're going to work with today. And then the Java EE platform is also developed through the JCP, and they developed their reference implementation as Project Glassfish. So they each have 2 open source projects that you can work with. You're welcome to do future Hangouts and if you want to, and do hack days working on Java EE technologies. So even if part of your user group is more interested in the JVM and wants to continue working with OpenJDK, that's fine. Continue and keep having hack days, gathering together, even if it's only just 2 to 5 developers. That doesn't matter. Just getting together and sharing your feedback is valuable. But then also, if you'd rather really focus on Java EE, or if you use that more in your day job, or that's something that you're more interested in learning about, you can also do that. So I'll be sharing with you some resources of how you can get started on either one. So it's open source, but also open standards. So everything's developed as an open standard, and not just the code out there in an open source project, but collaboratively engaging with you and getting your participation. So it's a standard that's developed in open source. So what are some ideas for getting involved? Sharing your ideas and feedback on the mailing list or the public issue tracker is really helpful. Reading early versions of the specifications. I know specifications can sometimes be long. You don't have to read the whole specification. You could pick just one part that maybe is of interest to you and provide any feedback. It could be as simple as a typo or something more significant. Just keep in mind, the earlier you get to these documents and provide feedback, the more likely it is that changes can be made. So try to review these things when they're early on in the process versus wait until it's almost final release time. You can try writing sample applications using the early access reference implementation builds. We're going to be trying out some of the early access reference implementations today, particularly with Java EE. It's helpful to have sample applications that can be included with the final release, and we have used sample applications from Java user groups in the final release of Java EE 7, so it definitely is something that will be used and will be helpful for developers all over the world. You can write or speak about the technology to encourage others in your community to participate, or to your local language. Particularly in Brazil, I've seen a lot of translations happening into Portuguese, and I know that's really vital for the success and the adoption of the technology in that market. If you're not technical, sometimes people ask me what they can do. You can help with social media to help promote. You can also help with documentation or provide feedback on user experience. So there's something for everyone here if you care about Java and are a member of the Java community. So this is what my group, that's kind of the introduction to what is the JCP, if you weren't aware of what the JCP is. Over the last 5 years, we've really been working to revitalize Java, and we did that through 3 steps. The first of which was making sure we got out 3 solid releases of each of the 3 platforms, which we've done, and we're actually already working on the next versions of the new platforms, which is what we work on. We're actually reforming our organization itself, so I'll share a little bit about how you can get involved as a result of that, how it makes it easier for you to join, and then also focusing on how we can increase our participation from user groups around the world to broaden our membership and get more engagement and feedback from developers through the Java user groups. And as a result of doing these 3 platforms and really bringing in that community involvement, we've seen greater adoption. So like we were talking about earlier on our Iceland activities trip, Java 8 really has been the most quickly and widely adopted Java platform to date. And we did discuss that is due in large part to the fact that there was some technology coming in that developers were highly anticipating, things like Lambdas and the Stream API, a new date and time API. Those are all things that developers were really looking forward to for quite a while. But also the fact that developers got involved in the testing of Java 8 before it went final and really provided some valuable feedback. Speaking of feedback, quite a while. But also the fact that developers got involved in the testing of Java 8 before it went final really provided some valuable feedback.
Sorry, Heather, could you unmute Gumi's laptop again? Sorry. I muted you by accident.
To do that.
There we go.
Yes. Okay, let's stop for a question.
You talked about 3 platforms, and the questions we have Java SE, Java EE, and the questions, what is the 3rd platform? Oh,
Java ME is also a platform. So in 2014, we did an update to CLDC. So that's and also introduced an embedded profile. So those were released in 2014.
There's another question as well, actually, Heather,
okay.
From Martin as well in IRC. How does the OpenJDK evolve to the Oracle JDK?
How does the OpenJDK evolve to the? Well, I think that OpenJDK is the reference implementation, and then Oracle does release a product that adds a few extra things on top of that.
Cool.
So, all right. So that was really the first part of the efforts of my team. So working with the community to develop those platforms, right? Through the JSRs, that's our core work. And then we also have, working together with the community, we evolve the JCP itself. So how can we change the governance of it and really bring in more participation from the developers? So we've done several efforts here through an initiative we call JCP.next, which is really about changing the overall structure of the JCP. So we've done things like make the work of the JSRs more transparent, and we've merged the EC to give, you know, a little bit more agility and less corporate oversight. And now this next thing that we've done, is just released this year, was a focus on how can we broaden membership in the JCP. And really our goals here were to eliminate barriers that were out there to participating, things like membership fees, so we eliminate those. We added the ability to just simply sign up electronically when you want to join the JCP, rather than having to download documents and sign them and ask your employer to sign on your behalf. And then we also looked at giving some recognition to people who are signing up at a new membership level. So introducing an associate membership level, which isn't a huge commitment like being on an expert group. It's a little bit more significant in terms of time and responsibility, but we added the ability to be a contributor on a JSR. So to do things like we're doing here today, if you were to continue to do this and follow a certain technology, you could be listed as a contributor on that JSR, which gives you some name recognition and allows you to have something that you can highlight on your CV, and also actually help and be a resource for that expert group moving forward. And then we've also added seats on the executive committee to represent that group of developers. So we have 2 seats on our executive committee that are up running currently that are set to represent associate members. So basically we introduced new memberships. It used to be in the history of the JCP, there were only, it's one kind of membership, you're a full member. But now we've introduced these 2 new types of memberships. Full members remain, but we have the ability for individuals to join as associate members. And in that, it's a very simple agreement, approximately 1-page agreement, works more like a contributor agreement versus 11 or 12 pages of legalese, and it doesn't require the individual to have their employer sign. So you can become, as an individual, an associate member. And then a similar thing for Java user groups. We have over 400 Java user groups around the world, and most of them are much like the Iceland group. Meeting informally. And so they don't necessarily need to become full members either. We have a simpler agreement for them, and it's called a partner membership. 1 page, electronically sign it, really straightforward. And then we continue to have the full members for people who want to serve on an expert group and lead a JSR. Okay, so those are the new memberships we introduced. And then the next question I often get is, well, okay, fine, I can join the JCP, you're making it easier for me, but why do I want to do this? And this is where, I've actually, over the last year since we started this JSR, basically to evolve the JCP, we do it through another JSR. So I act as the spec lead, and the executive committee acts as the expert group. And I poll members, people have joined the JCP, why do you do this? And the top 5 reasons I have here on this slide, which are to gain knowledge. So you're gaining knowledge about what technologies you're going to be using in the future. You're acquiring some of those soft skills. I think it's really popular to hear these days at conferences, and even when you talk to employers, that developers need not only technical skills, but really skills that are more, as HR professionals call, softer skills, like communication and collaboration, and the ability to work creatively and problem solving. So those are some skills that you're definitely going to learn if you're working together with developers around the world on these projects. You're also going to gain some visibility. So most of the developers who have been participating in the JCP for a while have gained tremendous visibility, both in the international Java community as well as within their local community and in their employer. They become kind of the expert, go-to expert for the other developers and also for their management. And for sometimes if you work at consultancy, for the clients. So basically it's a draw for those clients to want to work with the expert. And it's altruistic, but also you're making the technology that you're using better. And the final reason that for most people is, the top reason is that you have a lot of fun doing it. And I also wanted to ask at this point Hendrik to step in, because he is a JCP member with his employer, Canoe, and he's also on an expert group. So I think it's always helpful to hear from developer members themselves to hear, well, why do you do this and what have you gotten out of it? So just share your perspective, Hendrik.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm a JCP member. I would say money, girls, and free drinks. No.
It's not on my list. Is that fun? Fun?
No, I think it's about knowledge and fun for me. I think these are the most important points, because so I started to join the JCP and join discussions on JSRs because I wondered how is this working. So why is a JSR going into a special direction and maybe not in another direction, and stuff like this, which is the knowledge part and the fun part, because I simply like to create new things in Java, create new APIs in Java, and discuss about these APIs. And that's why I'm not only a JCP member, but I'm working in 2 JSRs. So I'm part of the Bean Validation 2.0 JSR that will be part of the next Java EE release. And I'm part of the desktop and mobile application framework JSR, which is some kind of a standalone JSR. So it's not related to Java EE, Java SE, or Java ME. It's more or less a JSR that defines some interfaces and specifications that you can use for desktop or mobile client development with Java.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you're an expert group member on both of those JSRs.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So, and that's why you're here. So, you know, if you participate, you get more involved in the community and kind of grow beyond your local communities. So how will you participate? That's the next question. You can do it as an individual, and that's fine. And like I mentioned, we've expanded the JCP in terms of making it easier to participate, and that works. But we found as a team, it's even better. So working together with people in your company or your local community or your Java user group to help each other and teach each other and work with each other. Because working together, you can create something that you never would be able to create on your own. For instance, you know, the last couple of years at Java 1 in San Francisco, which is a conference that happens every year and brings in developers from all around the world. We've done these art projects, so social media art projects, one with pictures last year, and this year this artist did one with these shapes based off of sound. So all the developers would come and, you know, create a shape based on the sound that they heard and create this sculpture. So working together, you can create something better that you can't create on your own. And again, that's tying back to what makes Java so special. So the third part of this is Adopt-a-JSR. So that's really looking at how can we engage the Java user groups and how can you participate and get involved with your local community. And so the Adopt-a-JSR was started by the London Java community and So Java in Brazil. And it's been, you know, growing ever since over the last few years. I'll share a little bit with you about how you can get involved and what you can do now immediately, the things that we're working on currently. But it's global groups of Java user group members. So we have over 30 Java user groups working together. So they're working in their local community, and then they're, again, communicating and collaborating with other groups all around the world. And it's helping them to become more professional in their group efforts. So growing up additional leaders within their Java user group. So for instance, you would probably have a subgroup that would do Adopt-a-JSR, and then you'd have your main leader that would be running, you know, your regular Hangouts, and then you'd have your hack days that you would do maybe, you know, on a different schedule with different people. So you have an opportunity to kind of grow the leadership team, or the bench, as they say. So if something happens to one leader, you have other leaders who are already training up and getting up to speed. And you'll also attract more developers to your community. Not every Java user group works so it's just speakers coming in and talking to you. You have some developers who really want to do more hands-on activities. So you have something for more developers. You're growing your community base in your local Java user group. So, and the other thing is, again, with Adopt-a-JSR, we highlight all of these Java user groups in the platform releases. So with Java SE 8 as well as Java EE 7, highlighting all of the efforts that these Java user groups are doing around the world in the launch events and giving them that recognition, because it really is a key part to the success of the programs. So we need you to adopt a JSR. And I'll give you a step-by-step on that. 5 steps of what to do if you want to do this. First step, pick a JSR. So as I mentioned, over 300 JSRs ever in the history of the JCP, but really there are only, you know, less than 40 that are active at any given point in time. So you can go to the URL and find the active ones. Here's a pretty thorough listing of the current active ones. And if you take a look at those, you can see that, first of all, it's Java EE8. So there's an umbrella JSR for Java EE8, as well as the component JSRs that are planned to make up Java EE8. And then we have the Java SE9, a few JSRs for that, particularly the Java module system and the Java SE9 release contents. And then we have a few standalone JSRs, so like units of measurement, JSR 363, and then also the desktop application API, the one that Hendrik is on the expert group for. So pick a JSR, that's the first thing. So you can't just say I want to do it. You really need to pick one thing to start with. So for instance, if you wanted to look at Java EE, if you want to do a hack day on Java EE and get involved with adopting a Java EE8 JSR, these are some of the choices, right? So this is a slide from Java 1 where we talked about some of the technologies going into Java 8. Java EE8, excuse me. So like for instance, like Hendrik mentioned, there's CDI 2.0 that's currently active. They have early access reference implementation that's ready, Bean validation as well. JSON P and JSON B are both pretty far along with early access reference implementations that need to be tested and tried out. There are plans for a few new JSRs as well that haven't been filed yet, but you can be on the lookout for those in the future, and that's a security JSR, a configuration JSR, and a health check JSR. So those are new ones coming. So at any point, there's new JSRs that'll come in. But pick a JSR, that's the first step. And then once you decide which one you're interested in, go to jcp.org, and there you can find the latest drafts as well as links to the discussion and the issue tracking. So go ahead and start following those discussions. That's the first step. And then communicate. So a really key thing here in this is don't just take the JSR and go running off in your expert group, in your Java user group, and forget to tell people what you're interested in doing. So let the spec lead and expert group know on the public discussion forum. That's why we have it there, is so that you can provide your feedback, but also communicate. Say, hey, I'm really interested in this. My community's excited about it. We want to get involved. And what would you like us to do? What would be helpful for you? Because it will change at any given point in time. For a lot of the EE JSRs, they are further along now where they have an early access reference implementation. So downloading it and testing it would be really helpful. But if it's earlier on, you're not there yet, there's other things like providing feedback on use cases and what you'd like to see and how you've used the technology. But at this point, for most of the EE8 ones, except for the newer ones that aren't filed yet, there either are reference implementations there for availability or there will be very soon. But still, communicate and let people know what you're interested in doing. And that also will help with other Java user groups to know what you're going to do. So just once you get that communication going, decide on the next steps. So there are some guidelines here on this link that I provided for Java EE. So there's a collected place for you to go here, glassfish.org/Adopt-a-JSR. And then we have a matrix where you can enter in your plans on adopt-a-JSR.org. So if you want to get involved with Adopt-a-JSR, it's helpful to just let people know that you want to do it. So this is really more for other user groups to collaborate with the global user group community. Once you've communicated with the spec lead and expert group of what you want to do with the JSR, come back here to the Adopt-a-JSR community and let people know that you're working on it. And again, this isn't because it's if one person's working on a JSR, you can't. It's actually encouraged that there be 4 or 5 at least user groups working on each JSR. That way you have feedback coming in from different parts of the world and different uses, and it's all being fed back to the leaders and the expert group as they're developing the technology. And then just continue to follow the discussions and comment. Almost all of the JSRs actually use Jira. So I did a snapshot here of Jira, but some people also use the GitHub issue tracker. So this is something that most developers are familiar with. I can tell you that all of the spec leads that I talk with, which is all of them, except the ones that ignore me, which I can't really think of any right now, they rely very heavily on their issue tracker. So it's a key tool for them in getting the work done of their technology. So definitely provide your feedback here in the issue tracker or in the public discussion forum. And then share it. So many of the user groups have actually shared some of their examples. So like the examples that we're going to do here today, or the hackathon that we've run in the past with Java 9 are available. There's an organization on GitHub, Adopt-a-JSR, so you can extend what we've done. Like Hendrik and Manny will talk about, they've extended what other people have done and what we're going to do here today. So it really expands the resources so that you don't have to start from scratch and creating benchmarks and examples and hackathons if you want to do it, or sample applications. Like some of the user groups with Java EE7 created sample applications and they upload them here. So then you could just download the sample application and extend that or test against it. It really helps to, be able to empower you to do more rather than having to spend a lot of time creating materials. So that, I think, is a summary of Adopt-a-JSR, well, that next section. So we'll transition now into how to participate in OpenJDK, because that is what we're going to do here today. Is we're going to focus on JDK 9, Java 9 that's coming. So as a result of the Adopt-a-JSR program, OpenJDK actually created an adoption group. So as part of OpenJDK, there is an adoption group, and that's what we're going to be providing our feedback to today, is the adoption group. And there's also a quality outreach group. So one of the really most important things to note here with this is that it's important to give your feedback to the adoption discussion group, although you will not accept your feedback until you join the mailing list. So this link here will take you to where you can go to join the mailing list. Make sure you join the mailing list before you provide your feedback, because it's a silent drop, so make sure you do that. And if you are a leader on an open source project, you can actually participate in the quality outreach program, which is sign up on that wiki for the quality outreach and put your project there and track your progress for getting it ready for Java 9. So if you have an open source project that you lead and it's not on the wiki link there, we can do that. But today we're really going to focus on the adoption part of it. And we're going to get into a lot of the technical details a little bit later, but essentially, if you weren't aware, JDK 9 is in development. Anyone didn't know that? Yeah. Okay, it is. There's 72 JEPs targeted for JDK 9, and it's a Java enhancement proposal. So I know sometimes when we talk about the JCP, people get confused about this, JEP versus a JSR. So the JEPs is not a one-to-one relationship with a JSR. The JEPs feed up to a JSR. So right now we have 2 JSRs and then some that are being maintained. So many JEPs will feed up into one JSR. So there's, for instance, one big JEP for JDK 9, which is the module system, Project Jigsaw, which is JEP 261, and that's in OpenJDK. And then there are several JEPs that fall under that, and then they would feed into the JSR 376, which is the module system. So this wiki that we put together that we're going to actually into when Hendrik and Manny start presenting their portion gives you a download link for the early access builds, and then also give you some guidance for what might happen when you test your application. So the whole idea here with the JDK outreach page is to get the community ready for the next release that's coming. And by doing that, we try to make it easier for you to download the builds. So we make them available every couple weeks, a new build. And then we try to give you a little bit of guidance of what might be happening with that build. So what are some of the things that have been added? What are some of the things that are changing? And maybe what are some of the things that are going to be removed? And then we give you some guidance for where to send your feedback once you do test out your applications. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to do some of that and hopefully get some great feedback in. There's the link. As I mentioned, we're already at build 142. So before this hangout, hopefully you've already downloaded the latest build, but there's a link for it if you haven't. And then, so the last step of Adopt-a-JSR and all of these things is to have fun. So that's my call to action for us. We today are already, we don't have to organize a separate day because we are already here and we have resources available to us. We are going to start in on the hacking portion of it. I'll close the links here, but we could probably check the chat or and see if we have any questions about the general stuff before we switch over to the hands-on. What we're going to do with the hands-on is we'll go ahead and spend some time for you to go through the wiki Manny from the London Java community is going to do that with us. And then we'll go through some examples. So we'll spend about the next hour doing that, but we have some time still in our schedule to answer some questions. If we want to.
There's a question. And the question is if the slides of this presentation will be available somewhere.
Yes, so this presentation is actually already on my SlideShare account, which is Heather VC. So you can download it there as a PDF. It's available now. That's how we got it for you here on this screen, actually. So it's there. Any other questions? Any questions in the room? Okay. All right, so then let's switch over to the other slide deck.
Okay.
Should we do that? The Java 9 slide deck.
Ooh. Manny, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, as Heather already said, Manny and I will give you an introduction to some new features of Java 9, some key features of Java 9, and we have some examples or exercises that we want to do with you to learn, the new features of Java 9. And since I created the slide deck and Manny seen it only some minutes before this presentation, I missed to add some introduction slides to Manny.
Well,
So-
you can let him introduce himself.
Yeah, that is my idea that you introduce.
Yeah,
And
I'm
so
going to read.
many-
I'm going to read exactly what's written on my bio. So I think that would give a precise introduction of myself. So is that all right?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Actually, I was just joking. I'll just shorten the introduction. So I have been. I represent the London Java community, and some of you might already know me from my previous endeavors with the OpenJDK. I have been a bit quiet in the last 12 months, but I have some time in hand to come back and help out with the JDK 9 process. What do I do in my day job? I work for a company called Codurance. I'm a craftsman at the company, and my passion for Java still remains. So I still continue to tinker with OpenJDK and some of the build systems, and put together a Git repo as well initially last year to help people get onto the JDK 9 Jigsaw module system. And we're going to be Hendrik and I are going to give you some introduction on that. So yeah, let's get started. Hendrik, over to you.
Okay. Yeah, so I have some slides for me to introduce myself. So I'm Hendrik Evers. I live in Germany, in Dortmund, and I'm leading the Java user group in Dortmund in Germany, and I work at Canoe Engineering AG, which is a company in Switzerland, and we do a lot of Java stuff. And yeah, I'm a Java champion, Java 1 rockstar, and as we already discussed, a member of JCP expert groups. And I love Star Wars. So that's about me.
Most important.
That's the most important fact, that I love Star Wars. Definitely.
And you're the Wookiee.
I'm the Wookiee, yes. I'm to Java. And I so the last years I did a lot of front-end stuff in Java, mostly about JavaFX, and I wrote the JavaFX book for Oracle, the JavaFX 8 reference card for DZone, and I have my own blog, which is a GUI garage, where I blog about front-end UI-related stuff. Not only Java, but web components, for example, is another topic where I blog about. Okay, but that's enough about me. Let's start with, not start with Java 9. So we said we are in Iceland, but you've seen us sitting in any office. It could be anywhere in the world. And so yeah, this is at the Gullfoss, where we, Gullfoss, is it right? Yeah, it's a Gullfoss, where we were like some hours ago, 2 hours, 3 hours ago. I don't know.
2 hours ago, we were at a waterfall.
Yes.
I suggest next time you should do this in a steam bath or a sauna. Then it'll be more representative of Iceland.
But now we will start with Java 9. And yeah, the first chapter is called like Hello World. This picture was taken in Iceland too. And so as we already have seen and talked about, so Java 9 will be the next major release for Java, and it will be released next summer. Mani, do you know an exact date where it will be released? Because I only know that it will be summer.
I thought it's been moved to July, but I could be wrong with my dates.
Yeah, okay. So the current release date is.
But that's again, it's up in the air date. It's not it's kind of a tentative date, not a provisional date, not a exact date.
Okay. So, but you can try it today, right? By using the early access builds of Java 9 that you can simply download on that link. Yeah. And as we said, we prepared some lessons, and the first lesson is quite easy. It's simply just downloading Java 9, the current early access build from the link, and then install Java 9. And if you call then Java minus version in your shell, you should see that you have something like this, like a 9 EA, so 9 early access build of Java installed, and it should be the 143. So, and now I would give all the people outside who maybe haven't done this some minutes to do it, and maybe Mani, you can show us a little bit more about the web pages of Java 9, the early access, and OpenJDK.
Sure. I actually have a script that does this download, because there's one more thing you'll have to do just to step in here is you'll have to set your Java home, wouldn't you, to point to the new binary. And I don't know if you mean to do that in your install already, but that's a small step a lot of us miss out, because we all will be probably pointing our Java home to our older versions, right? 7 or 8 or 6.
Yeah, so that's right. So the new macOS installer does this for you, so I haven't done it, but maybe on Linux or Windows.
Yeah, on Linux and Windows, you will have to do that. So just keep in mind, so all those things Hendrik said is great and correct, except just keep in mind your Java home and your path, your current path is pointing to the home directory, the Java home directory, or the binary, the directory where the binaries are. So with that, I will screen share some of the changes that's happening in Java 9. I also sent out a tweet sometime back whilst Heather was giving her introduction about downloading these way beforehand. So I think by now some of you might have already downloaded it, if I'm not mistaken.
So Manny, while you're talking, everyone should be doing this. You should download the early access build and install it. So hopefully you're all going to follow along with us virtually and here in person.
Sure. So there's been a lot of changes in Java 9, and Dalibor, who has worked really hard to come up with this page called the Java 9 Outreach, and he's got feedback from a lot of people in the community to update it over time. So if you can see, this is a huge list.
Oh,
and there are various categories.
I don't know if we see your screen.
Simon,
can you see my screen? I've just screen shared it. Can you see my screen?
Yep, sorry, fixing it now.
Can you see that now?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, sorry for that, and I'll start all over again. So I was pointing out to the JDK 9 outreach page. It's a wiki page that Dalibor has spent a lot of time putting together. He's got a lot of feedback from the community to add things in there that were probably missing or incorrect or had to be changed. And obviously, with JDK 9 changing every time, every other day, he had to come back and update the page as well. So unlike other releases of Java, which did not have this page in the beginning, this release already has a summary of all the things that are changing all the way to the last detail. And you can see it on this page. So you might want to bookmark this and come to this regularly to see what has changed. So I'll quickly scroll through the table of contents so you can see quite a lot of things have changed. And I'm going to pick up a few items from them, because I'm not going to be able to have the time and space to go through all of them. I would feel there are some important ones that you want to know about. So I've created a list here for myself so that I can help you with the items. And so, if, as you know, PermGen has been removed in JDK 8 itself, but in JDK 9, if you try to use the flag that has to do with PermGen, it'll actually give you an error like this that you see on my screen, rather than an ignore message. So you'll not be able to proceed further with your execution of your binary, of your Java binary, if you have one of these flags there. So it'll be like sort of a fatal exception. So that's something to know, and you want to try that out on your applications that are using one of these flags, the max PermGen size flag. And at least for sysadmins who do this, that's not very great news, because it means that your application suddenly will not run if you switch to Java 9, which means you'll have to go and change your scripts or your configurations to make sure you don't use this flag anymore, because it's not available in JDK 9.
Okay.
Is everything all right there? Did I miss a joke?
Yes.
So
Everything's fine here. Yep.
Okay. I was just wondering if I missed a joke, because I heard you
I'm
laugh.
sorry. We were laughing at Simon. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
What did I do?
let's get back to the wiki. And then there's a new fantastic tool introduced in Java 8 itself called the JDEPs, which is actually going to be even more useful for JDK 9 because of removals of and deprecations of a lot of different existing features since some previous versions of Java. And I would recommend you run this as well on your applications against the JDK 9 and see what it has to say. Somebody has worked hard to create a Maven plugin as well. So that's something to look into. And yes, of course, your third-party libraries, are they JDK 9 compliant? It's something for you to find out and move to those libraries that are. There is also the cross-compilation flag that's been introduced.
So, Manu,
so that
may I
sure.
interrupt you? So there's a question on the chat, and people asking how to set Java home under Windows. I have absolutely no idea, because I don't use Windows.
Under Windows, you have a system and environment variables. So you need to go, I barely remember it, but you go into your environment variable settings, which is under control panel, and or you can right mouse click on your My Computer and say properties, and there's a tab that says environment variables. So there are two categories. There's a system category and there's a user category. You want to go to you will probably see Java Home in one of those tabs. I can't remember which one. And then you set it over there. Although the new versions of Windows do some other magic that I'm not sure about. So this is roughly what I think you'll have to do to set your Java Home.
And also, Sunny Chan, who's also in the Hangout, does mention in the command prompt, you can use set. So I think it's like set space. What's it going to be? It's going to be path equals, and then probably
Java underscore home equals,
Oh no, sorry, set
that's
space Java underscore home equals, that's right.
But
that's only working.
And this will be absolutely fine, because all the examples that we will do them in the command line. So we won't use IntelliJ, Eclipse, or something like that. So if you simply set this in the command line and not as a global one, this will work.
Sure. Well, but so it's still important to set that, because I have seen applications try to use the old binary. Okay, so if I come back to where I was, so there are these flags added for cross compilation to older platforms, which is interesting. You want to play around with that and have a look at it. And again, any problems or issues, please feedback to us. Towards the end of this, I will share with you where you should send your feedback to, which is extremely important. I will also be tweeting. I also tweeted it out, but I'm going to talk about it again. So now the most important bit is testing your code. And I think this should have been in bold in the wiki, but it doesn't matter. It's in the state it is. So what do you mean by testing your code which is what you're doing currently. You're downloading the JDK 9 binary, build 143. What I did was I set my Java home, and I also made sure. So for example, if you're using a binary, a build system like Maven, then I check if Maven has picked up my JDK 9 settings. And if you can see over here, Maven has. So and then you go into your project, and then you just build your project using Maven or Gradle or another system. But make sure that your build system is also connecting with the same binary of Java that you just downloaded. And that's why I suggested to fix your Java home, because most applications will directly use this flag, environment variable flag. And then, so testing an application simply means building your application with the Maven. In case of Maven, it'll be Maven package. And then you can see it's already throwing an exception here because I'm in a folder that doesn't have a POM file. But also to run your tests. So you can say Maven test or your build system test, and then to see if your tests are running fine and everything in your applications, your test suite is actually running fine and none of the tests are failing because of the new JDK build. Now that's not it, because your tests might run fine, your build might be fine, but maybe in runtime, you might have an issue. So I would suggest to also keep your application running on JDK 9 for some time, maybe a day or two or a week, or on a separate system, and maybe observe what's happening, and have people use that system and observe what's happening, whether it's staying stable or it's using more memory, and any of those things, record them and feed it back to us. And that's the most important, and we'll be doing some bit of that today, hopefully. So I covered those bits, and of course, the modular system and the modular runtime images, they have been introduced in the JDK 9. These sections are also mentioned in the wiki, and there's more details about it from the links provided there. But the most important bit is to test your code using the latest JDK 9 binary. There have been two other interesting additions to the JDK 9 binary, and that is the unified logging. So there's both unified GC logging and the unified JVM logging, and details of both are mentioned here under the various JEPs, JEPs 271 and JEP 158, sorry, respectively. So have a look at them, and it'll be good to know if these are as per your requirements, if there are problems, if you don't know how to use them, there's not enough documentation, or if the usage itself is not user friendly. All that is good feedback for us. And then there's been some noise in the industry that G1 has been made the default garbage collector in JDK 9. G1 already existed before, but in JDK 9, the default garbage collector is G1. But being default does not mean you cannot switch to another one. So again, coming back to the system administrators, they may not like this immediately, because it means that basically their applications might be running under a garbage collector that might not be suitable for their applications. So they will have to manually configure their startup to use a different collector than a G1 GC collector. So that's about it. The last bit, which is quite important, is feedback. Everything, we all depend on feedback. This is a community-driven system, and you can apply. You can share your feedback to us on the mailing list. You can start off with the Adopt discussion mailing list. Previously, I sent out a tweet, and I'll just point to that tweet so you know which one I'm talking about, where I shared the link to the mailing list, because you have to sign up the mailing list, and then once you sign up the mailing list, you can post your messages. So that's I sent out a tweet, and basically, all right, I'm not able to find this right here. So what I'm going to do is go to the section in the RC chat. All right, it's over here. It's the URL that I tweeted, and the URL I've pasted in the IRC. So you go over there, and you can, and as you see on my screen, you can sign up, or you can send a direct mail to this address, but then it'll expect you to sign up. So it's best you sign up here, and you say subscribe, and then you send your mail, your questions, your comments to this mailing list. And then from there onwards, you will get a guidance to whether to post the message in another mailing list where it's more relevant, or you can continue discussions over there. So I'm actually pretty much finished with the outreach, the walkthrough of the outreach. I'll hand the baton over to Hendrik. If we might be ready by now to start running the jshell.
Yeah,
there's actually a good question that probably now would be a good time to ask.
Oh yes, is there any questions?
What's the question?
Yeah, so someone asked that. Oh, Simon, maybe you can read it because I can't see it.
Okay, sure. So it's from Martin R1 in IRC. He says, "Hi Heather, a lot of existing, if not all, JSRs seem pretty advanced and hard to get started with. Could you give an actual example of what an entry-level JCP associate could contribute?" And I thought it would be a good time because I wonder if the mailing lists might actually be a good place to ask each individual JSR.
Well, something that an entry-level person could get started with would be reviewing the specification. So like the early draft review version of the specification, read it, provide feedback on its usability. Does it seem easy to understand? Are there any typos in it? I mean, even I think someone who's just getting started could download the early access reference implementation and test out certain parts of it. Again, you know, you don't have to do the whole thing. You can pick certain parts. So even if you pick one JSR and then maybe you pick one part of the specification or you pick one part to test and you provide feedback on that. So start small, I think is what's really important. So like for instance, the JSON bindings JSR has just recently updated their reference implementation, their early access, and they really do need people to test it out. So they're getting ready to finalize it. So download it and provide some feedback.
And what I think is that, yeah, maybe some JSRs are hard or, but normally you work on the JSR that you are interested to and that you are used in your daily work. So I, for example, it would make absolutely no sense if I would start working on JPA.
Right,
because
technology you've
I'm
never
an
used,
absolutely
right.
data noob. And that's why I work on JSRs that I use in my daily work, where I think that I can do some contribution in code, in discussion, in examples, and stuff like that. And yeah, and that's simply the point.
Right, and I think also, you know, if you want to do something that wasn't related to code, you could do some social media about it. So from your local Java user group handle or your own personal account, promote when there's drafts available, promote what they need help with now. You can do a talk, you know, locally, just even explaining the overview of what's coming. You can get that just by reading the JSR page. Like you don't have to go into a deep dive technical talk about it. You could just be kind of like these are the things they're working on, giving, you know, some kind of evangelism, quote unquote. And also, you know, depending on where you live, if you wanted to translate something, you could do that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue with Java 9. Simon, do we see the presentation now?
And did anyone have any questions or feedback on downloading the early access build or any thing about the wiki page? So it's the same wiki page that I mentioned in my talk about from the adoption group, the early access outreach. It's the outreach page, the wiki. Are there any questions? Any questions coming on IRC?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Currently, we have a comment that with the latest Java 9 early access builds, for example, Gradle is not working. Yeah, that is right, because Java 9
Gradle, the issue with Gradle has been for some time, and there's a mailing list discussion, and maybe more than one that people might want to follow up on. I would recommend.
Yeah. But that's why we today only use the command line to work with Java 9. And since Java 9 is still under development, yeah, there could be issues with Java 9, but this is a good example because people are testing it. People know that there's an issue with Gradle, and the people at Gradle or at Oracle, if it depends on Java, had a chance to fix this bug or this issue before Java 9 will be released, right?
Right, so that's part of the idea of what we're doing is we're discovering things that aren't working, and we can't do that unless real world developers are actually doing it, right? So.
Okay, and now talk about the jshell, which is one of the new key features of Java 9, and it's already part of the Java 9 access build. So after you have installed Java 9 and it's running on your machine, you can simply use jshell, which is part of Java 9. And the jshell is a Java interpreter, which means it's a wrapper, which means it feels like doing scripting with Java. So you can type commands, they will be executed directly, and you can create new commands based on this command. Okay. So there are two parts of jshell, or two different ways how Java 9 provides jshell. And there is a jshell executable that is part of Java 9, so that you can execute from your shell or a command line, which will start the jshell. And in addition, Java 9 contains a jshell API. And based on this, you can create weapon code or create an internal shell or jshell in an application, in a Java 9 application. And what we want to do now is we want to play with jshell and see what you can do by using jshell. And this is the second lesson today. So as I said, the jshell command can be found in the bin folder of your Java 9 installation. And what we want to do now is that we simply want to start the jshell. So let me see.
So we're going to switch over to your Mac.
Yeah, I will.
You view Hendrik's screen now? Okay.
No, it's not shared now.
Okay.
Let me see. Just a second.
This is actually one of the most popular features that developers, when they hear about what's coming, they're most excited about.
So how can I share my screen?
Out of interest, Hendrik, what font is that? While you're waiting.
Which one?
Brain Flower. It's called Brain Flower.
Brain Flower.
Okay,
It doesn't have a bold feature though.
So Simon, I have now I have my screen shared on my PC, which shows the jshell. Can you?
Yeah, I can see it. If you could just increase the font just a few steps, that'll be good. Perfect. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. So and once you did it, you.
Except it's showing down there. It's not showing on the top.
But
Okay.
maybe because we selected something special. Can you select my screen? It's the left one. Okay. So this was just an internal issue here. So now we see the jshell that I have started, and what I can do now in the jshell is I can simply code Java in the shell. So for example, I could create an integer variable which has the value 5, and what happens now in the jshell, a variable that is called x was created that has a value 5. Now I could say maybe let's create something. That is x plus 2. And now we have a variable z that has a value 7, for example. And next or I can create a string, for example. And next to creating variables, I can simply create methods, like I can do in Java. So let's say we have a void hello world method that does system out.println hello world. And now I can call hello world, the method, and I see my print line, which is hello world. So these are the most basic things that you can do with the jshell. And if you can go back to my slides, Simon. So I hope everyone has started JShell now. So I've prepared some slides, but we mostly already seen this now, guys. So you can create variables or methods, for example, in JShell, and use the variables or call the methods in JShell. And maybe some of you ask, okay, he's using system outprint, he's using string, he didn't define any imports for this. So next to this, you can define imports in JShell, but by using JShell, JShell automatically adds some common imports. And these imports are mentioned here. So everything that I use is part of these packages, and by doing so, I don't need it to import something additional. But if you, for example, want to use something of the new date and time API from Java 8, or so, you can simply type import and the package that you want to have, and by doing so, you can use the classes that you have imported by doing so. So and now I would simply say have like some minutes of time where people can play with the JShell, maybe create some variables, create some methods, and try to call them, maybe do some mixing of the stuff. And if you have some specific questions, please write us on the channel, and we will try to answer your questions. So Simon, if you can go back to my my screen, show the shell, I can do the same and simply do some stuff in JShell and talk about what I'm doing until we don't have any question. So okay, please help improve it. Windows version is also welcome. No, that is money. Okay.
That's me putting that.
Okay, I thought right. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So let's say I create some variables, like I create a string name, which is Iceland Jug.
Should we go back to your screen now?
You can, which is Iceland Jug, and then I create, for example, a method which is called say hello, which does system.out.println hello name. What? Oh, we have an error. So what's wrong here? Yeah, sure. I missed this one. Oh, here you can see that if you type something that is right in the terms of the Java syntax, you will see such an error. And the errors are quite nice because they really show you at what position the error is. And again, we have an error. So what's wrong? Come on. Now we have the method say hello. Now I can, for example, call the method say hello. Hello, Iceland Jug. Or I can do this in maybe an iteration, like I can create an int stream from the range. Let's start with 0 to 10, and then call for each. I will simply say hello. So and now we will see what happens with the import, because you can't find the int stream, right? Because the int stream is not part of the basic import packages.
The base library.
Excuse me?
The Java base library.
Yeah, right. So what I need to do now is I need to import the int stream. And the simplest way how I can do this is I can simply import the package which is Java Young, it's func, right? I have only this screen now. Anybody knows it? Let me see. Otherwise, I will have a look at IntelliJ to check it.
I can check it for you. Hang on a second.
Yeah, okay, that's perfect. So you know, since you use tools like in IntelliJ or so, you have absolutely no idea about the package.
So it's Java util.stream. Java.util.
Java util stream. Yeah, that makes absolutely more sense than Java Young fun.
Hendrik, do you know if any IDEs are actually going to be embedding this into their IDE so you can do all your usual completions and stuff like that?
So there are a couple, Simon, there are a couple of plugins already available that work in IntelliJ itself. So you install it. So there's somebody's been working on a jshell plugin for a long time, and I think they made some modifications to use the latest version of Java, and you can install that into your IntelliJ or IDE and use it from there. I don't know about Eclipse and NetBeans. So assuming there might be something out there already.
Mm-hmm. And you want range, not ranged.
Yeah, it's range, right?
Yeah. Good catch from Sonny on there. I see.
Okay. And here we go. And now we see like 10 times hello ice can jug. So I think this is enough for the first example. And now go back to the slides.
We've got some questions if you wanted some.
Oh yeah, some questions, okay.
So a couple of questions, let me find them. Kumar says, is this shell something like Scala Python shell? It's pretty much standard REPL, similar to those, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much like this one. So I'm not that deep in Scala or Python. So based on this, I don't know all the functionality of the Scala or Python shell. But if I think about a shell for Python or Scala, I would think that it's mostly the same that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Kumar said, Wegbert says, is there any way to load a file? E.g., could I create a default imports.jsh to import a bunch of packages by default just to facilitate, using the.
So I don't know. To be true, so there are some additional commands that you can use in jshell, and these are the next steps that we will have a look to, what additional commands you have. But I don't know if there's a command or a way, or even at the start of or at jshell a parameter to add a file to it. I don't know.
Is there a load command? I think there's a load command, right?
Excuse me?
Is there a load command in JShell?
I don't know if there's a load command.
Or is it open?
If you type slash and tab, it will show you the option.
If you type slash and what?
And tab to automatically show you the option.
Ah, okay. So let's see. We have open. What does open does? Yeah, fine. So maybe yes.
And of course, and /save is the other interesting one. That will pretty much, I think, grab all the commands that you wrote.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, and these are I didn't know that you can simply put slash and then tab. That's interesting, because on the next slide I will show some of these commands that you can use in jshell. But if you type slash and tab, you will see all of them, but you won't see what they are doing. So let's maybe go back to the slides and have a look at some of the commands. So I added some of the commands here on the page and want to tell what you can do with the command. So the first command is var, and by typing this command, you simply see all the variables that you have created in the current JShell session. So in my example, I've created an integer which is named x, which is named z. I have a string which was named, I think, name or so. And by typing /var, I will see all of the variables that I have created. And the same with methods. So by typing /methods, I will see an overview of all the methods that I have created in my current JShell session. In addition, I can have a look at all the imports that are accessible in the current, so the packages or the classes that are accessible in the current JShell session. So if I do imports now, I see the default packages that were added in JShell as default. And then we have, for example, the list command, where I can see the last commands that I have typed in JShell. Created a method like my hello world method, and I want to change something in this method, I can do the edit command with the method name, and this will open a small editor in that I can change the internals of my method. Okay, so as I said, using the command line is not the only way to work with the JShell. There's an API to access the JShell in Java code too. For example, there's a class which is called JShell, and you can use it to create a new JShell, and then you can simply either any string into this shell, and for example, like /vars, you can get a list of all the variables that are currently into your JShell session. So what we've done, by typing in this JShell prompt, you can do programmatically in Java too. Okay, so and there's another new API, and we want to do a new a next lesson or sample with a JShell, and there I want to introduce a new API which is part of Java 9, which is the HTTP request. And so Java 9 contains a new class which is called HTTP request. And by using this class, it's quite easy to create HTTP requests against any web server or something like that. And what we want to do now is creating a new HTTP request, maybe against Google or any other web page, and get some information from Google. So maybe if you have a REST endpoint that you know that returns JSON or something like that, you can use this one. But what we want to see is that with Java 9, you now have default APIs to do HTTP requests. Okay, and so to do so, I think the best start is to have a look at the Java doc of the HTTP request class. And there's the first thing that you can see, that the class is part of the JavaNet HTTP package. So what I will do now in my JShell is I will import that package. And now I can create a new HTTP request by simply, for example, calling HTTP request is HTTP request, create new like HTTP something like this. Oh, okay, and here we have a new error because okay, I need to call a create. So what I want to do here with this Fluent API, I can configure the HTTP request. So what I want to do now is I want to do a post, or no, a get. So in my shell, I call the get method, and this creates a new request, a get request to Google. And now I can create a HTTP response based on this request by using my request and simply calling .response. Yeah. And now I have a response, and with the response, it's quite easy to, for example, get the body by calling response.body as string, for example, and then I will get the response of this request. So since we are running out of time, let me see, where's I think we need to go on this screen, right? Yeah, okay.
Okay, back to the
since we are running out of time, we want to go to the next chapter, which is Jigsaw.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I think Mani will tell you about Jigsaw.
Hendrik, I can take this over from here if you don't mind.
Excuse me?
I can take this point from here. I have my system running now, and we could do a couple of examples.
Okay.
So I'll screen share.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have much time. We've got like 30 minutes. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
30 minutes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. I think it should be more than enough for us to do what we want to do.
Okay, perfect.
All right. I mean, you can always, you're welcome to chip in with comments or anything that you might want to add whilst I'm speaking, you know.
Excuse me?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we'll comment if we have anything to add.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get started,
Sure.
Manny. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, so I've just screen shared. Can you see it?
It's
At the
loading.
moment,
it's loading, I think.
Yeah, now we see lesson 5, play with Jigsaw.
Okay, so we are on that page. I'm going to leave it this way because that way it doesn't load and slow the system down.
Okay.
I think we should start.
Yeah, so let me see. So maybe I can show the slides from my PC. Maybe it's easier. And
Okay, makes sense. You could do that, and I'll just share the. I'm not sure if we can share between the two because I want to show the command line where I write some of the.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so we have the screen here. You can see Hendrik nicely putting away. Is that you? Is that you, Hendrik? Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Iceland. Yes, it's me in Iceland.
Okay, he's putting away some of those rocks on top of each other, trying to imitate what Jigsaw is trying to do. So with Java 9, the new module system has been introduced, which means also that both our applications and the JDK itself, which is also the JRE, is split into smaller modules, and the modules depend on each other. And the application modules also depend on each other. So this is a nice graph that Hendrik has put together of one of the components that depends on basic components like the Java SQL, Java FX controls, the logging component, the graphics component, and they amongst themselves depend on each other. And you can see how by breaking them into smaller pieces, you can see what the dependencies are. So this is a nice dependency tree of the module system, of a small portion of the module system. So what can we do with the module system? Hendrik's nicely put together here. You can define your own modules. You can define the public parts of it. You can define the private parts of it, and you can define internal dependencies. What he means by these is there are modules that will be visible to us as a user, and then there'll be modules that will be only visible to other modules, but not to the external world, in case if it's a library exposing modules. And then, of course, the modules are dependent on each other within itself, and those can also be defined in the new module system. We won't go into the details of it, but you will see when we do an example what it covers. I'm assuming almost all of you have cloned this repo because I tweeted about it and I posted a message on the RC channel, but I'm going to give you like a few more minutes and then start off after that. For Linux and Mac users, you might have to install wget and tree in case you don't have it, unless you know alternative commands for these. Although for the first few examples that I'm going to go through, we may not need the tree and the wget, but for later on, you might need it, just to keep in mind. So I'm going to wait for a few minutes and see if anybody is not cloned this project, or at least give you the chance to go into the project, go into the root directory of the project, and wait for me to start with my next step. In the meanwhile, you can also have a read of the README file, so this will give you an idea of anything else you might need to know about, or an idea of what we will be doing in the next few minutes.
So, Mani, because some words while we are waiting about the tree and the wget command.
Yeah.
Because people might think, why do I need the tree and the wget command only for Java 9? So because it's our small build system, right? We don't use Gradle or Maven or stuff like that here, so we've created some plain build scripts that internally depends on these two commands.
That's right. Thanks for adding that in. Yes, so the tree and the wget command are not necessary for Java 9 or JDK 9, but to work with this repository that we created, you need them. The tree is mainly for you to have a look at what JDK 9 has done after you've compiled something or after you've built something to the directory structure. So you can see nicely it has created all these subdirectories and put the modules in it. The wget is purely to download the JDK 9 if it doesn't already exist in the folder in which you're running. So I know you probably have already installed JDK 9 and you have set your home to it, but this repository is a standalone repository, so that in case you haven't done that or you don't want to change the configuration of your local system for whatever reason, you can actually use the script in this folder, which will use wget to download the binary and set up your environment, so that whilst you're working in the folder and your temporary environment is created, so you can do your jigsaw commands and try them out. So I think by now everybody's got their JDK 9 jigsaw cloned, and we can start with our first exercise. So I'm gonna switch the command prompt. I've got a lot of noise on the screen, so I'm already in the folder called greetings. You know, if you do a directory listing of the folders in the project repository, you can see we've got about 9 to 10 folders. And there's the get jigsaw script, which I'd mentioned earlier, which when you run, it downloads the latest binary and saves it onto your local machine. You might not need to run that if you already have your environment set, but if you don't, then you can use that. So let's go into the first example. It's a very simple example. You do cd 01 underscore greetings, and then in there there are 4 files. One of them is called compile.sh, the other one is called run.sh. I am going to remove the, I'm not going to remove anything, sorry. I'm going to try to run the compile.sh, and you will see the moment I do that, there's a problem. Because this repo was created last year, and at that time, there was a flag called -module path that was available, but recently, and which Hendrik also found out and helped us know, is that it has been changed to something else. It's been changed to -module path. So if you go back to the slide, Hendrik has very nicely put this here. He mentions module source path, but in addition to that, -module path has also been changed. And so if you run the script or you try to run the script, this error. So I would suggest to open up the script, which I'm going to do right with you, into a text editor. I'm using Sublime. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that line. If you see, this line was the line that the compiler was complaining about. And so I'm going to change that to minus, and I think it's called -module path. Now, how do I know that? So I think you have all done that. I'm going to go back to the command prompt. Firstly, I should have done this. That is the Java 9 version, build 143, as you can see. But I also want to see if the compiler is the same version. So I'm going to do javac -version. And you see it is the same version. So if you do java -help, and I'm going to grep on all the module related flags because that's what I'm interested in. Okay, I think I know why that has happened. Because I've used for some reason it's not enlisting. But what I wanted to show you is that all these flags are enlisted in the latest help, and this is the flag we are interested in. So we are going to go and change our script to use that flag, which I've already done. So I've saved it. Now I'm going to go back to the prompt, and I'm going to run that command again. And if you now see, we have two classes compiled. Yeah.
I have a question. So you did this now, and I see here like 10 people or so in this room doing exactly the same. And if we maybe do this in 2 weeks again or so, and I don't know, maybe 200 people who are following it online do the same.
Yeah.
So isn't there a way that we can do it for all the people, or that anybody can do it for all the people?
Yeah, they can. They can create a pull request with the change, and the next time somebody updates the repo, they won't have this problem. So they could actually update all the exercises in this repository. Wherever they see a minus module source path or a minus module path, they replace it with minus module minus path. And then they commit and they push it and they create a pull request, and we will merge it for them.
Yeah, that's cool. So we had this question, so everything looks so hard, how could I start to contribute? I think this is a perfect example, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is going to happen because Jigsaw or JDK 9 is not set in stone. It's a moving target. It'll always get modified, and we are at a bleeding edge of the development. So we are going to come across things that are going to not be valid anymore. So we will have to change it, and it's great to be able to do that and collaborate on that. So this is a great example, and this is a perfect time for everybody to step in and change that. I'll be more than happy to merge those pull requests, whoever sends them. Besides, there's also only a Linux version of the compile and run. If someone wants to come up with a Windows version of it, be my guest. I will merge that as well. You will have to take the responsibility of making sure that the script works and works for every Windows machine and not just yours. So be aware of how you modify them. So coming back to this, do you have more questions, Hendrik, or can I continue with just running this compiled module?
So I don't have more questions, and as I see, there are no questions on the chat at the moment. Are there any questions here in the room?
Simon, are there any questions you see?
Oh, we have a question here in the room.
Okay.
Oh, we have 2 questions in the room.
Okay, go on.
Yeah.
When you're using the JSRs, you define a method that has a ton of jacked exceptions.
Yeah.
You have to type all of them.
So what do you mean? It's like internally in the. So the question is.
If you have a method signature that says throws and then like 5 things,
Yeah.
you always have to type all of them on.
Okay, the question is if you use a JShell and create a custom method, and internally in the method, for example, you use some API that might throw exceptions which are not runtime exceptions. This could end in a method that, for example, would throw like 5 different exception types, right? And the question was now, okay, how can I handle this? So I think one thing how you can handle this is just throw exception. So the method, if you define the method by simply throw exception,
yeah,
it's fine. Then you only need to define one exception. Yeah. Otherwise, you need to type all of them. In that case, you lose some information, right? But then it's shorter. So if you simply want to try something, throw as exception. I think that will be fine. Okay.
All right. Okay. So coming back to Jigsaw, so I will compile this again, and you can see it says creating folder. If it doesn't exist, and it compiles the source file. If you see, the tree command actually helps me see what the contents of my folder is. So in the source folder, I have a package called com.greetings, and in there I have the modules.info file, and I've got the main Java file, and then it compiles back into, it puts the output into mods folder, and then it creates the com.greetings and then all that stuff. And let me run this. Okay, so you have another problem right there with the run as well. So we will have to fix that as well. We need lots of pull requests, I think, to fix this. Hendrik, maybe you can send your first one.
Excuse me, we had a discussion here. So what have you said?
I was saying that maybe you could send your first pull request to us, and then we could merge it, and that could be an example of for everybody else.
Yeah, I can do it again.
Maybe
So
you can change the 01 greetings whilst I am running this. You can change that, and yeah, so you can see when I run the script. So I want to make sure, I want to let you know that there are two outputs here. This output is executed by the script, and this is the output of the output execution of your actual class. I'll show you what I mean by that, because the script contains echoes so that someone who's running it knows what's happening. And this is the line that got executed. So I'm going to copy that line, and I'm going to run it on the command prompt, and you can see the output of that line is greetings, not running greetings main. That was the output of the script. So this is how you could technically compile. So you can see how we compile a module. I'll show it to you again. So there's no rocket science to it. You just say javac the module path, and in this case we called it mods. You can call it anything else. -d is the folder name. In this case, we just call it mod/com.greetings. That's a directory name, and these are the two paths to the mod.info and to the main.java file. And the main.java contains nothing, but it's like instead of hello world, it says greetings. So it's just a static a main method containing a system out. Yeah, and then you can see there's a tree command at the end of every of those, which actually shows you the output of your of the execution of the compile, because that way you know, because what I can do is I can remove this folder. Now you see there's no mod folder there. Oh, sorry, it should be mods. There's no mod folder there, and then I can say compile, and it has created the mod folder for me, and then it has put those compiled classes in there, and that's where the tree command comes in. So that was lesson 1, which was greetings. I'm going to keep this short and just do the second lesson. If there's some time, we can do the third one, but let's do the second one and see what's in there. So you go into the second one, and the folder in there, it looks the same, but there might be something different. So yeah, there are now 2 modules in there, not just com.greetings, but there's also the org.astro. And what's happening is one module is calling the other module, and that's executing the command. So I am not showing you the contents at the moment, but when you're going to be doing this on your own, again, have a look at how they sit together. Because the module.info, which I can show you the content real quickly, will have a definition. So I'm going to say cat src, and then you have the module.info, and you can see that contains definition of the module that the comms.greeting module is dependent on. And that's the beauty of the module system. So if you do tree source, you'll see only the comms.greeting has the module in, sorry, both the comms.greeting and the org.astro have a modules file. So let's have a look at what's in the org.astro. So it's cat src, and that says I export this module. So the whole package, the whole project will not compile if the 2 don't talk to each other in this fashion. So unless one module says I require the other module, and the other module says yes, I export the module you require, you won't be able to compile this. And you can play around with this. I'm not going to show you that, and see what happens if you comment one of the lines. What I will do is I will remove the mods folder. So I'm compiling it from scratch, and I compile this. All right, there is a problem with the module path, so I need to fix that. It's a simple fix. Hendrik, are you creating the pull request while I'm doing this?
No, I can't because my MacBook is currently used as a camera here.
Oh, okay, ignore for now. You can do it later on. So yeah, so I'm going to recompile this, and you can see it compiles both the modules, and it's successful. And now I can run them. Okay, we have a problem with the run again. It's the same problem. Oh, typo. So change that, save. I'm going to run this again. There you go. So basically, it's one application calling one module calling the other module, which does the printing on the screen, and we can quickly see how that's happening. I was not planning to do that, but I'll do that anyways because. Oh. All right, so we have main.java. We have Astro. Now Astro's got a class called world. It's got a method called name, and what it does is it returns world. And greetings, sorry, and the com.greetings has a class called main, which is the main class, and it's got the main method, which actually does is says world.name execute, and in here you say import that. But this import wouldn't even work if this line in the module -info Java was not present under the com.greetings, and that line was not present in the under the in module info under org.astro. So one is exporting the function, the other one is importing the function, and only then can it see it, and then it executes. So you can clearly see a very simple example of module dependency, and this can get even more complicated.
So
I'm going to stop right here.
If you remove something in one of the module infos and then compile it, there will be an error, or what will happen?
Compiler will say it cannot see. Let's see what the error is now. I can't remember off the top of my head what the error message is. But let's say we comment out the part that exports it. What's the okay? We comment it out. I have never told you to do this, but you're asking me to do it. So okay, you can see that message there.
Yeah.
It says I can't find that module. It says that package doesn't exist because the whole package is not exported. Okay, so let's do the other way around. Let's go to the other one and say requires. So this is going to give us, can anybody guess what kind of an error it's going to give us? Because we're importing a package from somewhere else, but we are not saying it's required. So let's see what error we get. No, it's in the same. Have I not saved it? Just a second. Okay, it's the same issue. If you don't say requires, it still makes that package unavailable. So when you, okay, but the error is slightly different. The error is on this line. It says import that package, but that package cannot be imported because it's not in the package space.
I think it's the same. I think it was the same error. I think it was the same line, which is what you'd expect, really, because
exactly, exactly. It's the same. The effect is the same whether you comment this one or the other one. The commenting out results in the same thing. It doesn't find the module.
Can't find the class on the
can't find the class. Cannot find the class because the module has not been exported. Okay, so let's revert this, and I'm not going to do a pull request on that. Let's compile it again, and you can see this is now going to be fine. And let's run it. Great. There's one thing though. I don't know if it's changed, but it's a bit confusing. Is that is actually the module name, And underneath that, you have the package structure. Just to know. And they look the same, and I had actually raised a comment on this one. I'm not sure if it's going to be changed or addressed in any form. But that was about it. I don't think we have enough time for any more examples. I'm going to hand this over to Hendrik or Heather, whoever wants to take it further.
Yeah, let's go back to the slides. Are we done with the slides? Yeah, I think we're at the closing at this point. So we're going to have a few questions, and then we can close with the links again at the end of my other presentation. Yeah.
Let's see how.
So
any questions?
There was a question on the IRC, I think, but anything specific to this, and then we can move to the general question.
So we had a question. Maybe we start with a question. I think it's for Heather.
Yeah.
So the question was: is there a way to find out which JSRs a local JUG participates in?
Yeah, so the wiki on Adopt-a-JSR.org, that's the place where the Java user groups should be putting in their interest in working on that JSR. So that should be kept up to date. But what I found is that the Java user group leaders don't always do that. So actually, just with this last release of having us have Java user groups join the JCP as partner Java user groups, if you join as a partner Java user group, there's a way for you to indicate that you want to support JSRs. So that would be essentially saying that you're adopting it. So over time, that as Java user groups join, since it's just possible that we've added this membership this year, they used to have to join as full members, and many didn't want to do that. So we're building up our Java user groups who are members. I think we're up to 60 now who can indicate that they want to support on the JSR page. So as that builds up, that will ultimately be the way to do it. Look on the JSR page. That should really be the source of truth for everything, where you can just find everything all in one place. But until then, I think the Adopt-a-JSR.org, who's adopting JSRs page, is a little bit more up to date. But I'm a call for help from the Java user groups and members of the Java user group. If you're a member of the Java user group and you know you're adopting a JSR, you can fill in that wiki and let me know, and I'll try to keep it up to date.
Okay, cool. So there's another question.
Sorry, Hendrik, can I just add to that answer from Heather as well? Just to say that if anyone on the VJUG wanted to look into a JSR or adopt a JSR, we can absolutely do that. It just needs people on the VJUG to run with it. So if anyone's interested in that, feel free to contact me, and we'll talk with Heather directly and sort something out.
Yeah, essentially, this session is the idea to kind of kickstart a bunch of different Java user groups getting together and kind of repeating what we've just done tonight, right? Like with JDK 9, keep going through those exercises, keep testing your applications, feeding what the results are, and then if you're interested in some of the other JSRs, meet and do activities on those, and then just repeat, as the things change and get developed, you keep meeting on whatever rotation makes sense for you and your local community, or virtually.
And Heather, if a JSR has been adopted by a JUG, does that mean it can't be adopted by other JUGs, or can you just pick whatever one you want?
Yeah, you can pick whichever one you want. It's actually ideal if we have more than one Java user group working on the same JSR, because then we get different types of feedback, more robust feedback. So 4 or 5 Java user groups working on the same JSR is completely fine. Better.
So if anyone does want to do something like that, and they have a preference of a JSR, ping me directly, and we can do a hack session like this where we are just literally coding on that API just to see if there's any bugs in it, see if we can give any feedback and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And you could even do one of these again. Like if members want to do more of these, you could do one of these like every quarter until JDK 9 is released, right? Or every month, whatever duration makes sense for you.
Okay. So we have some questions on the stream. So I think some can be answered quite fast. So this question is Jigsaw new feature from only Java 9. Yes. So Jigsaw will be introduced with Java 9, and you can't use it, for example, with Java 8.
I've tried to answer a couple of questions right there. So there was one from Simon, I think.
From Simon?
Was it from Simon or was it from Vegbert?
No, it was from Vegbert. I was just making you
Okay.
aware of it.
Oh, sure. Sorry. I think the answer is for Vegbert, but I'm sure Vegbert is here to see that. And then there was another from Kumar, and I think Hendrik, you just answered that. Any other questions? I think
we have some questions. So maybe Mani, you can answer this. Any IDE is already supporting Jigsaw? Because I tried it some time ago and it was not supported. I don't know what the current state of Eclipse, NetBeans, and IntelliJ of supporting Jigsaw.
So I think I'm not going to be able to speak on behalf of IDEs, but because there are some loose wires with certain build systems that are not fully on board with JDK 9 or Jigsaw because of there are certain changes that they depend on that have been either deprecated or removed or has been changed. Like, for example, we still have problems with Gradle. So I'm not sure if those are the reasons, but I have not seen, I haven't seen, I saw a feature in IntelliJ where you can switch to JDK 9, but I don't know if that means it also understands Jigsaw. And I haven't tried it out myself. So it's something to experiment and find out. I'm thinking many IDEs will allow you to use the compiler aspect of it, but whether it is blind to its module aspects, like, recognizing this module has been exported, these packages have been exported. I don't know if they already are starting to support that, but that'll be interesting to know. And maybe people can go out and experiment and find out.
I'd probably also add that that the support certainly for Java 8 was around in NetBeans way earlier than IntelliJ or indeed Eclipse, just because it's
a stream here.
It's typically developed at the same time as Oracle obviously have that inertia to, or sorry, the velocity and the momentum to make those changes. So yeah, maybe look to NetBeans to see how that's doing.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It'll be good to know from the community if they try out the different IDEs to see which ones have given what support to JDK 9.
I know NetBeans was working on it when I did another hack day with a different group. So if it's not working now, I mean, it can definitely change. So
we have another question for Heather here.
Yeah.
So the question is, when some changes will be part of the JEP and when there will be a JSR. So what is the difference between a JEP and a JSR? And maybe it's even interesting for what JEP and JSR stands for.
Yeah, okay. Those are how the projects in OpenJDK are organized. So it's a Java enhancement proposal. And in the JCP, we have JSRs, which is a Java specification request. So the JEPs are really how the reference implementation is developed. Then the JSR requires the reference implementation, which some of the JEPs feed up into the JSRs, but it also requires specification and the test suite. So a JSR encompasses three things: the specification, the reference implementation, and the test suite. And a JEP is really only about the implementation. That's where the implementation is done in OpenJDK, and multiple JEPs will feed into a JSR. So there's multiple JEPs that talk about the module system that feed into the one JSR, JSR 376. And the work is done primarily for most JSRs is done first in the reference implementation, because rather than specify things in advance, we work on the implementation in open source and then, have the specification kind of following along, almost trailing behind it. So that's the way it works.
Okay, cool. So there was another question about performance in Java 9. I currently can't see it, but the question was, are there any, let me see, where was it? Is Jigsaw a new feature or no?
I think the newest one is from QR, any Java program. So basically asking about backwards compatibility.
Backward compatibility?
Yep. Yes, so I did answer that one. And Hendrik, you might want to add to that as well. I mean, the answer is depends. We cannot say yes or no because it is supposed to be in principle JDK 8 compliant. But there have been changes and breakages and deprecations, and the outreach page outlines that. So we will find out.
I don't know if there have been any removals. Have there?
Yeah.
There have. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's the
Well,
There have
first
been
point.
There are a few things in the wiki
Yeah.
that are being deprecated, so they don't necessarily code removal. But like the applet API, for instance, is going to be deprecated with Java 9. So that link that I had in my slide deck, I think it was slide 39 or 36, it had a link to the wiki, and that whole wiki tells you this is what's being added, this is what's being changed, this is what's being removed or deprecated. So it's an overview there, and then it also has that link to where you can send feedback to the adoption group, the adoption discuss list.
And if
So
something's been,
do we need to hard stop at 6, or are we good? Because I want to just close out with a call to action at the end. You tell me.
We're
So
pulling
may-
the plug.
No, I'm just saying, I'm good, I'm good. I'm just
Pulling the
saying.
plug.
I don't want people just
Heather is
standing
hungry.
here. We didn't skip lunch, and I mean, we were hiking all around geysers and waterfalls and everything, and we want to see the Northern Lights, but I'm happy to stay longer. Any more questions? I'll
So
take them
yeah,
all.
so maybe just about the last question about if there will be problems with Java or JDK 8 based programs to port them to JDK 9. Next to this, by default, if you use JDK 9, for example, all the internal Java classes like ComSun, anything, won't be accessible by default. But when starting with this told you since JDK 1, do not use these classes. In JDK 9, by default, if you run a Java program without configuring anything, this will end in a problem, for example. And in addition, JDK 9, I think it will be the first JDK version where classes were not only deprecated, but removed. But if you are only program your application against the public interfaces and classes of Java, you won't have any problem.
Yeah.
And then we have a question about Java 9. Is there any performance optimization improvements in Java 9? So I think what we've seen today of Java 9 are only two of the biggest new features. If you have a look at all the JEPs that are part of Java 9, there is a lot of stuff. So I'm mostly interested, for example, in the UI related and front end related stuff. There's, for example, support for multi-resolution images to provide different image files for an image object that it looks good on for example, 4K, Retina, and normal monitors. There's a lot of performance issues for Java 2D running on Linux because they changed to some native new systems that is supported now. I'm not a Linux guy, so I don't know the internals, but this, for example, is one thing where you have a better performance. So if you run, for example, an application, a Java application with a front end on Linux, with Java 9, it will be much faster because they use new internal native stuff in Linux. Don't ask me what and why. I have no idea, but I know that they do it.
So the question about performance has always been like a discussion thing. Some things can improve the performance, some things may leave the performance as it is, and some things can regress the performance. It can sometimes depend from application to application, I would say. So even though the goal might have been to improve performance, it, like, for example, people have different opinions about the G1 collector. It's not necessarily improving performance for everybody, but depending on what your use case is, the G1 collector might be the best one for you. Otherwise, you switch to your old collector that you are used to, and things like that. So it's a hard question to answer. Sorry, Hendrik, for interrupting. Go on.
Sunny the Pooh posted another JEP to the chat that is, for example, an answer to this question, which is related to LSA, for example.
The string one, is it?
Where was it? No.
Is it JEP 246 leverage CPU instructions for
246? Yeah. And what we, for example, have is another discussion here. So about class loaders there's a difference in class loaders between Java 8 and Java 9. So there's a difference. Maybe Manny, you can. I think you are deeper into this topic than I am. So maybe you can say like a few words, 1 minute about the difference of class loaders.
Ooh, you got me there, Hendrix. I'm not.
Okay, then I can say something. Okay.
Yeah.
So what
I think
know
Simon might be able to say something as well. He's quite into class loaders. Simon, isn't that your hot topic?
Yeah, so I haven't had much experience with Java 9 yet, but I mean, essentially the biggest thing is there's the flat class loader as we know it today isn't really going to exist too well in Java 9, because obviously everything has its own view of the system, because you have exports and imports. So depending on where you are in your system, in the same way something like any kind of module system would work, like an OSGI, for example. So your class path would in effect build up due to what is being exported and what you are importing. So to have stacked class loaders and things like that, it's going to be a little bit more complex than that, because your class loader is going to be around a specific module and so forth.
And another thing that has changed, so normally, or with, for example, Java 8, when you start a Java application, you have this kind of root class loader, right? Which is the main class loader of your Java application, which until now was, I think, the URL class loader. And I think this will change with Java 9, because then the main class loader is the module class loader, as far as I know. Oh, and we have a question here.
Access any of the module information to the section.
Oh yeah. So the question here is if you can access module information through reflections. And I think that you can access it because, for example, the class object has new information like get module. And what you can do now based on this, I don't actually know, but you can get the module information in Java by using reflection.
Yeah, you can. It's actually one of the big pains, I think, of modules as it is, because someone raised a question about how that's even going to work, because sometimes you need to actually reflect up certain classes which aren't going to be shared by other bundles, and do you then try and have that kind of master bundle idea where you try and expose everything just so this kind of reflection technique works. But you definitely can do that. It's just going to depend on how they actually implement it. It's one of the open questions I think that's going on.
Okay. Oh, we have another question here in Iceland.
So if we think about the module system from a software engineering design perspective, what do you think is going to happen to the structure of for example, existing projects? I mean, existing projects maybe currently split into very few modules. Do you think they are going to be further split, or? So,
have you understand the question, Simon, or should I repeat it?
Yeah, could you repeat it?
Okay, so the question was, once this module system is introduced, what do we think will happen to frameworks or APIs that are currently out there, like, let's say, Spring or Hibernate maybe, or something like that, right?
No, also about just private projects.
Private projects, yes. That you are, so you creating an application, okay. So, or maybe private projects, like a project for a customer or so. So from my point of view, I think if you create a project for a customer, like an application, it's defining modules and public or private dependencies is at the end not that important, but I think it's quite important if you define APIs, frameworks, or if internally in your company you have something like base modules for your applications. Because by doing it that way, you can define public and private parts of this module. So let's say in Hibernate or in Spring, there are some classes that are internal, that do some Spring-specific stuff, and normally a developer should not use these classes in any application that depends on Spring. But currently you can use it, like the com.fun classes in Java SE. And by simply defining private packages in a module, you can really hide them so that anything that depends on it or use it can't use it anymore. And I think this will end in much better APIs and much more readable code. That's my position. So, and if you then create a war like for a customer based on it, and you don't have modules, or even maybe today you would have something like Maven modules and don't specify private and public APIs for them, so then it's as it is until now in this layer. But even there, if you structure your customer project in modules, and you have something like common modules or low-level modules, and have implementations and a public interface, maybe only with really interfaces there, you have a much better API, and developers don't need to know so much classes and don't need to, So there are less pitfalls, because the things that you shouldn't access, you can't access it. That's my point. So, money, Simon, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, the only actually additional I'd say is we've got to remember that the module system here is really being used to break the JVM down rather than being used as a complete module system for applications. So I see this being used at the JVM level. I see this being used by libraries. As to whether people are going to be using them in anger in their applications, I don't really see that too much, but maybe people will. But I see it more around libraries and JVM usage.
So the points where it's currently hard is for languages, for example, that are based on the JVM. I know, for example, that Groovy currently has a lot of issues providing a Groovy implementation based on Java 9 and Jigsaw, because Groovy needs all this information about classes and stuff like that to define a meta model that can be configured or mutated. And they currently have some problems with the things that you can do with Jigsaw, like really saying this is private and you can't access it. But they're in discussion with Oracle. There was, for example, especially for Jigsaw, there was a mailing list just for Jigsaw where all these topics are discussed. And I have, I'm on this mailing list. And for example, the Spring guys did a lot of input. The Groovy guys did a lot of input. They already tried to build and use their frameworks or tools with Java 9.
I think that's probably the last question we have time for. So should we wrap up and
do a proper wrap up?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
What? I heard someone say something. So, all right. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for coming in person in Iceland and virtually. We had a lot of responses, which is encouraging. And I want to encourage everyone to join the JCP. If you haven't yet, I explained to you earlier how you can, but I left the links here on the screen, how to do that, how to follow us on social media. And then also, if you want to get involved with Adopt-a-JSR, you can contact me directly, or just go ahead and sign up for the mailing list that we have for Adopt-a-JSR. There's also an IRC channel, and again, the GitHub link where we have some materials if you want to have a hack day. And keep in communication. That's the main key. If you want to do that, is communicate and let us know what you plan to do, what you're doing, any suggestions you have, any progress that you've made, and that way we can be sure to promote it out so the world knows what you're doing, and we can match you up with other Java user groups in other parts of the world so you can work together and share your knowledge. So that's all I have.
Cool. Yeah, I want to say thank you to the JUG Iceland to have us here, because it was a quite nice day. We did some very cool things today, seen a lot of nature and awesome stuff. And we're in a quite nice office. It really rocks. So if you ever ask yourself, how is it to be a Java developer in Iceland, I think it's quite good. So it looks quite good to me. Yeah, and just to the people who are out there, so the people here at the JUG Iceland will now get some stickers, so sadly you won't, but it was cool to have you on the chat, and thank you for all the questions.
I think we should make Iceland JUG the headquarters for all these sessions we do now.
All right, yeah, anytime we want to have one of these sessions, Simon, just let me know and I'll fly to Iceland.
I'll join you next time, actually.
Heather has already confirmed she's going to fly to Iceland.
That was a joke.
Well, it's been taken seriously now, Heather. It's a commitment.
Yeah, I take such statements seriously.
Yeah, the Oracle has spoken.
Well, you can come anytime.
All right, thank you. I didn't get to see everything. I would like to come back, and yeah, anybody who wants to come visit, you know, I'm sure they welcome some additional speakers at the Java user group.
Oh yes.
Everybody welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, and thank you to everyone on the virtual jug who participated as well. And,
all right, thanks.
See you next
Thanks,
time.
Simon. Thanks, everyone, for putting this together.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend. Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.